But I tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Worcester, and I was a Worcester firefighter for 3 years. I worked fire rescue for Worcester, and I was decorated. I saved a 1-month-old baby in a fire at Great Brook Valley and resuscitated her. One of the other firefighters came out and gave her to me. I was manning the truck. One of us had to man the rescue truck, and he came out and he handed the baby to me, and he says, she's not breathing. And I remember doing CPR. And it's amazing how things happen. The day before, we're in the station, we're practicing CPR on infants, you know. So I remember running to a Worcester PD cruiser, and I yelled to the officer, she's not breathing, we got to get to the hospital. And I remember doing chest compressions and breathing for her. And I remember by the time we probably got about a good mile away, she started crying. And when she started crying, both of us started crying, you know. And 4 years ago, my son went on Facebook, located her, and we went out to breakfast. Sabrina Sims. She's 49 years old.
What year were you on the fire department?
I was on the fire department from 1970 to 1973. Okay, I was on the Worcester Fire Department. I love the fire department, but my aim in life was to be a police officer. And I had taken the exam for the Worcester PD, and I took every exam that I could. And I wasn't good at exams. I wasn't good at exam taking. So I ended up, and back up a little bit, my mother died when I was 16, so I quit school. And I went to work, and I got married when I was 17, okay? And me and my wife are just about July 16th this year, be 60 years. Yeah, she lived next door to me. We grew up together. Just a wonderful person to put up with my baloney, but she's a wonderful person, and kudos to her. She's strong. We got a wonderful family and everything, and but it's you take and you wonder. State police. A unique group of individuals, you know. Went through the academy, and I love the academy, you know. And the drill instructors would say, "Tony, are you laughing at us?" And I said, "Kinda, sir." I says, "This is going to be some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen in my life." Of course, you know, they made you do hilarious things. One time they found a sparrow in the back drill company street, and you know. I know they put it there, but anyway, we had to do a funeral. Had to put a little shoe box and had to dig a hole, and we had to do the drill and the rifle session to show us how to take and do a funeral. So we did a funeral to the sparrow, you know. And when I used to go to GHQ, I used to drive by the spot and salute the sparrow, you know. And but you know, there's just. There were some jerks, and there was a when I first came on, there was a lot of racism. I remember I got I was doing an investigation on the old Munson barracks. That's my first thing, and there was a trooper who referred to me as the N-word and Black Sambo, and I'll never forget it. The corporal and the sergeant were sitting at the table. I turned around, I caught him right in the forehead and knocked him out, and he was on the floor. And the corporal, the sergeant was like, "My God!" Right? So they revived the trooper. They made him apologize to me, and the sergeant took me up to his office. And he said, "You can't do that. You get fired, you know." And I says, "People call me sir, people call me Mr. Toney, people call me Trooper Toney, okay? Those who like me call me Al." I says, "But you have to realize that when I grew up with all this, and I didn't put up with it, and I'm not about to put up with it now." And we used to stand roll call, and the sergeant had everybody at roll call, and he goes, "You know, I think this foolishness with Trooper Toney better stop." He says, "Because somebody's going to be hurt, and it's going to be one of you, you know." And but if you grew up the way that I grew up, in Worcester, but it wasn't, it was a mixed community. But we had alcoholics, we had drug addicts, we had things like that, right? And when I was working, I worked, when I first got married, I worked for a construction company in Ashland, Schofields, and then I got a job at Norton Company, and they trained me to run the kilns, and I ran the kilns for about 3 or 4 years, and then the fire department called me, and I went to the fire department, and then from there I went to the state police. But it's, how can I put it? It's kind of hard, because every time, you want to do the best that you can. And I always loved the state police. First time I saw a trooper was 1956. And the reason why I remember it was 1956 was my dad, he worked 2 full-time jobs at Rice Barton Corporation in Worcester, and he worked for the Telegram Gazette as a janitor. And he bought his first new car, a 1956 Ford Custom, right? And I remember being in Westboro, on Route 9 in Westboro, and we stopped at the lights, and my father pulled through the lights. He pulled into a gas station, and I was sitting in the back of the car, and I remember a state trooper did a U-turn, and he had the single light on the top, and he got out, big tall guy, I think it was an Irish gentleman, and he had the swinging holster and everything, and I'm glued out the window, had the breeches and boots and everything, and I'm looking out the window, and I looked, and I says, wow. So my father got back in the car, and I goes, hey, Dad, who's that? He says, that's a Massachusetts state trooper. And I says, wow, I'm going to be one of those one day. Yeah, I'll tell you this one. I was out of the old Munson Barracks, and I'm on Route 67 in Palmer, goes down to Warren, and I worked a midnight shift, 11 to 7, about 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's a forestry trail that goes down by the river. So I'm tooling along, and bright moon, and I see the reflection of headlights, right? So I turn around, I shut off my headlights, I go down the trail, and I confront the car. Now I'm in front of the car about the distance that we are, right? So now I hit the switch and I light it up, right? Well, there's a couple in there, a man and a woman, and they're half naked, right? But when I see them, right, they're older people, right? And so when I see them and I laugh, the guy goes, ah! And the girl goes, oh, and the woman goes, ah! Right? And I start laughing, and I'm laughing so hard, I open the door and I fall out, I'm on my knees, and I'm laughing so hard, so I go up to the car, and I says, how you folks doing? And I look in, and she's all dolled out. She's got on lingerie and high heels and everything. And so I says, so she says, is there anything wrong? And I says, no, just checking. Saw the lights down here. Saw the headlights down here and everything. Just checking. And so I says, sir, I says, how old are you? He says, 68. And I goes, oh, okay. I says, ma'am, how old are you? And she's covering herself up with this jacket, and she goes, I'm 67. And I goes, okay. I says, I just checking. I saw the car down here, didn't know what was going on. I says, you folks stay right here. So the guy says, well, he says, we'll leave. I says, nope, you stay right here. You folks stay right here and enjoy life. And turned around, I went back. I got back up on the main road, popped my trunk, went in my trunk, grabbed the yellow crime tape, and I strung it from one tree to the other tree, tied it off, and I left. So I remember I got my license. I hadn't had my license an hour. My father let me take the car. I went to a stop sign. I got stopped. And the police officer from Worcester says, and I gave him the paper copy, and he goes, how long you had this license? I said, oh, about an hour. And he let me go. But again, he says, you got to stop at stop signs, He said, didn't you learn that in driving school? And I goes, yeah. I said, I'm just excited. He goes, okay. So I fully understand. He says, but so he let me go, and I drove home, and I parked the car, and a couple of days later I told my dad about it, But no, hey, it's a wonderful, wonderful job. It's a wonderful job. But it's what you make of it. It's what you make of it. There are some people, I had people who worked for me, and I had one guy that worked for me, and I just said, why are you here? And he says, for the money. And I said, okay. He says, but, you know, you treat people like, like garbage, you know, and he says, I don't like people, you know, and I say, hey, whatever. But no, but no. I take and, if I ever finish my book and write my book, but if it's a wonderful job. Law enforcement is a wonderful job. I know they're struggling now to get people and everything, but it's what you make of it. It's what the individual makes of it, you know. You know, there's right and wrong, and that's it. That's it, you know. But the world still hasn't learned that there's right and wrong, you know. And you know, it's trying times. But we need the best people we can find, and no matter what your nationality, no matter what your race, no matter what your color, you know, if you are a person of color and you want to change something within law enforcement, participate in law enforcement. Okay, go up through the ranks, become an officer, become the chief, become a sergeant, whatever. Okay, but have a hand in molding the people around you and show the people around you that you care too. So.